Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. My name is Ray Agwe, and today we have Charisma. Am I saying your name properly?
Yes, yes.
And her YouTube channel, guys, is Charisma Cares. I love that. And the reason why I wanted to talk to Charisma today is because Charisma is a single mother. Of course, she's a Black woman, as you can see. She's a single mother. She homeschools her son. Her son is disabled. He's a teenager. Tell me if I'm incorrect. He's a teenager.
Preteen, he's 10.
Pre, he's 10, preteens. He's 10. Okay, so that was incorrect. He's a preteen, which is just as hard because I get it. Teens, preteens, no joke. And she's traveling all over the world, and now she's, settled in the DR. And we're going to talk to her today about what it's like to travel the world, be a digital nomad, be an expat, be a single mother, raising a disabled son, making her own money while being Black and a woman at the same time.
Yes.
So welcome, Charisma. Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out. She's in the DR, guys. I'm in Portugal. We're across the world, and we're going to sit here and talk today about what it's like traveling the world while Black, while being a single mother, and all that good stuff. So we're going to start off by just having Charisma introduce herself. Who are you? Where did you come from? If you want to say your age, you can. You're not required. Where you are located right now, what you do, and then I'll start getting into your business and all.
All right, so I am Charisma, and my YouTube channel, I expanded it out. Charisma Cares travels the world. Um, so I am 37. I am a mom of two. My daughter is 19, so she's still in the States doing her own thing. She told me she did not like travel life. And my son is 10. He has a very rare genetic disorder. To date, there's maybe 400 people in the world with it. It's called KIF1A. And he is actually the only person in the world with his mutation. So basically, everything that is known about KIF1A with my son's mutation, it's only him. Like, so anything they know, they only know from him. There's no one else. Um, so that was quite the blow. Initially, they thought he had cerebral palsy, but that was not the case. After a lot of digging, I found that out. So as far as what I do a number of things. My background, I am a RN and a nurse practitioner. Right now, I work in psych and I see patients online. I also invest in real estate. So, I make some money from my real estate, and I'm actually going back to the States to increase that and pick up some more properties and investments. I also do coaching for other single moms that want to travel, whether it's full time, vacation. And I do coaching for people with maybe special needs children or disabilities, or just families with individuals with disabilities, and they want to travel, but they're not quite sure how to do it, where to go, what things to involve themselves in. So I help women and whomever with that. And then I just talk about a lot of our travels, things that go right, things that go wrong. I'm very open on my YouTube channel. It's a what you see is what you get. We've talked about this. I've even done a video where we've crossed the border, where we walked from Panama to Costa Rica in his wheelchair.
It's
So
fascinating. Fascinating. So
we,
good. When I was like, wait a minute, is she really crossing the border? Because I went to Costa Rica for a birthday of mine and it changed my life. I loved
yeah.
Costa Rica. And I know Costa Rica is bordered with Panama. And I was like, is she really crossing the border with her son in a wheelchair?
Yes, yes. I was drawn there because my mother's side of the family is actually from there. My grandmother was born in Costa Rica. So half of my family is from Costa Rica and Panama. Yeah, my uncles are all from Panama. My mother is actually the first U.S. citizen. Yeah, I
Okay.
was drawn to Panama, and then I went to Costa Rica, Limon, where my grandmother was born. So I've met a lot of family and everything. So I just
So do you speak any Spanish?
Nah, I understood more than I spoke, but I'm starting to learn to speak now. When my grandmother came to the States, it wasn't a good thing for your children to speak Spanish. Like it was important that they became very Americanized. So she didn't teach them Spanish to really to protect them. But now, of course, it's very popular to be bilingual. But at the time, no, it's very much frowned upon.
And she felt that she needed to protect them because
You know, she came over here from Panama at the time. She was married, she married a merchant marine, and you really needed to just be an American. It was not okay back then to show that you were Hispanic, even though she lived in New York. It wasn't okay to let that be known and put that out there. So she raised them as Americans as much as possible. Now, the other interesting thing is that everybody came through my grandmother. So every person in the United States from our line lived with my grandmother at some point in their lives.
wow, that's fascinating. Now, let's going back to your son. How old was your son when you realized that he had this disorder? Was he born with it, or was
So,
time pass and then you found out? Like, how old was he?
so he was born, when he was born, he was always sick. He was sick quite a bit. And at the time I was married, and me and my ex-husband would get into it because he would say, well, you're just trying to make something wrong with him. No, there's something wrong with them. I know there's something wrong. And, I'm a medical professional. I know there's something wrong. And I had to keep telling the doctors. And eventually, maybe around 1.5, 2 is when a doctor actually told me there is something wrong. We don't know exactly what it is. And then they were like, oh, maybe he has autism, because, of course, everybody has to have autism. But
Right.
that was I guess like it's a designer diagnosis. Now he does have some mild autism, but that wasn't his primary diagnosis. And I just kept searching, and eventually, one of the neurologists that we see, she said, let's just test for everything. We're just going to do a blanket test and check his DNA for everything, because she said there's something wrong. We're doing cerebral palsy as an umbrella diagnosis, but that's not it. So it was around 7 when we received his diagnosis of KIF1A. And, people always think cerebral palsy is bad. Well, KIF1A actually is progressive. So it actually gets worse over time, which is why I said we're going to go travel the world, because a lot of the kids that I've noticed that have KIF1A, once they become teenagers, that's when they start to decline. So they
And you
can't
feel
walk.
that this is a possibility that can happen with your son?
This is a possibility. It's not something that I claim, but it's something that's always in the back of my mind. Like some of them lose their vision, some of them stop being able to walk, talk, feed themselves. So, I just felt like, what? We got our whole lives to sit in the classroom. We have our whole lives, the normal trajectory is that, we raise our kids, they go to school until they're in 12th grade, and they go to more school, and then they get a job. Well, since I don't know the trajectory of my son's life, because like I said, he's the only one with his mutation. So I said, well, we're going to change this. We're not doing it that way. We're going to go travel, live our best life, do what we do, and then whatever happens in the future, we'll deal with it then. We can always go back to school. COVID taught me school is wherever I am. That was one thing, it is. When I put him in the schools online, I was like, what are y'all doing? Like, I can do this. I have to do it anyway. So I started homeschooling. Never in a million years did I think I would be homeschooling. I'm like, who is that? Who doing that? Not me.
Because let me tell you, what I realized is, not to cut you off, or I just cut you off, but what I realized is, like every city I go to, I do an Airbnb tour, like a tour, a walking tour, or a bike tour, and there's a plethora of information on these tours. And I thought about this because I have two goddaughters, and at some point they may come and live with me. I was like, I would tour these girls all over the world with me. They
Mhm.
would work and film all my content. They would edit it. They're 12, 13. This is what kids do, right?
Right.
They would edit it, and they would get all their homeschooling with all the tours, all the castles, all the history, this king, that king, St. George. It's a better education traveling the world than sitting in the class. No, or am I crazy?
It is. It's actually called world schooling. There's actually a term for it. And that's what we do. We do a combination of homeschooling and world schooling.
There's a term for that?
Yeah, so world schooling is basically where you travel the world and the world is your education. So we definitely do that. We go on tours. We do we look at a lot of different things. We go to the like we've been to the aquarium, we've been to the zoo. He'll say the words. We'll do English and Spanish. We'll talk about the animals. We'll do some videos. So every day for us is not sit down and do your work. We do have sit down and do your work, but then we have sometimes where we're out and about. Like we went out to the city, we did Disney on Ice. We went out to the different. We went to the mall. They have all kinds of stuff in their mall here. They had an aquarium, so we went to the aquarium in the mall. He's reading the different signs in Spanish and English and translating things.
Right.
So
And with him being in another country, hearing another language, that has to be good for his ear.
yeah, he definitely he picks up the language. He watches a lot of his shows in Spanish. Like I consider that educational. Okay, I'm getting ready to go to work, so you go ahead and you watch Blippi in Spanish. Like that's what you're doing today. So we do a combination. It's not just sit at home. Let's go over math, science, da 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 da. Da. No, we're actually going out into the world. We go on walks. He has to order his own meals in Spanish. So they're like, well, what does he want? And I'm like, what do you want? And he's like, yo quiero hamburguesa y papas fritas y batida, fresa. Yeah, he orders his own. I'm like,
Nice. This is excellent though. Now tell me, why is he in a wheelchair? What's affecting his body, or like what's happening in his body that he's
so
in a
so he
wheelchair?
uses crutches and he uses a wheelchair. So one of the things with his diagnosis is it's just a smorgasbord of different things. So he has what's called spasticity. So sometimes his legs get tight or they get weak. So one thing that we've done here is increased his walking, and he actually has done physical therapy here as well. Like when I see the weakness coming back in, I'll find a physical therapist. They don't speak English. We make it work. I learn new words. They learn new words.
That's
So
right.
we've done physical therapy here and just a lot of walking. The walking really strengthens his legs. And one of the things that his doctors told me, because at one point he had 15 doctors, we're down to like five or six. And one of the things that he told me is that there's another disorder, and they thought that the disorder was progressive. It got worse over time. However, after studying it for years, what they found was that as long as you keep pushing, they weren't getting worse. So that's what I do. I keep pushing. So let's go walk. Put your stuff on, do this, do that. I don't really take on that whole you're disabled, so you can't do anything. Yes, you
Right.
can.
So it's almost like you mentally have him in a space as if he's not disabled, respecting his limitations, but you're
Right.
not feeding into, oh, this is bad, or oh, this is not, this is limiting to you.
Right. And I have to even separate myself sometimes from some parents that's what they feed into, because then it brings me down. And then if it brings me down, then it brings him down. So, they're like, well, how do you do this? How are you doing that? And I'm like, how can I not? I mean, what am I supposed to do? Sit here with a ticking clock and just be like, well, we just waiting for it to happen. We're gonna use our time wisely. So he may need more time. Anybody else, it may take you 20, 30 minutes to get dressed. I give him an hour. All right, we're leaving in an hour. Go ahead and start getting ready, because he wears braces and he has to put all of these different things on. So yeah, go ahead, start getting ready. I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. You got 30 more minutes. So I don't, yes, there are limitations, but we're going to push until, we get to the point where it's like, okay, that's enough pushing. Now I need help.
Now, how are you doing this all by yourself as a single mother? Like you just said, you had a divorce with your husband. How old was your son or your daughter when you and your husband got a divorce?
So my kids have an 8-year difference. He was about 1.5 and my daughter was 9. And frankly, Men, and I can't even just say black men do not take well to sons, especially with disabilities. And I actually had a white female doctor tell me that. I remember coming back to the visit and I said, well, it's just me this time. She said, you know what? 8 out of 10 couples that come by the second or third visit or at some point, it's just going to be mom. She was like, a lot of them choose not to handle it. Now, we had marital stuff going on because, once you throw in disabilities and all kinds of stuff, we had marital stuff going on. But he actually decided after that, he stayed around for maybe a year, but he has not even seen my son. I got full custody in my divorce, and he didn't show up to that.
So you think it's because your son has disabilities that he's not invested. Now, if his son didn't have disabilities, then he may be more invested.
I think that he blames himself because the thought is that it probably comes from his side of the family. He refused to be tested, but after thinking about some family members on his side of the family, there's a very strong possibility that it comes from that side of the family. So I think it's selfishness and guilt. But isn't it typically always, even if they don't have a disability? Yeah, but I think that's really what it comes down to. And at one point he said, well, I'll see him when he's 18. And I
He said
said,
that?
yeah, yeah. So
Okay, let's go to your daughter. Where's your daughter now? How old is your daughter? And how come she's not on tour with you?
So my daughter is 19. She is in the States. We're from Atlanta. So my mom's there and all the family's there. I brought her with me. So when I left, she didn't go with me. She was doing her own thing. And then I brought her with me. She said, okay, I do want to go. And she came to Colombia with me. And she actually came to the DR with me. But she said she wanted to go back. She didn't really like the whole travel life. She's not really. I'm an extrovert. I'm like an introverted extrovert. Sometimes I don't want to be bothered, but I'm really an extrovert. Like I don't meet a stranger. My daughter is an introvert, so everybody is a stranger. Like she's not trying to talk to new people. She's she's very laid back. Like we're kind of polar opposites. And she was just like, yeah, I just wanna go back. Like I don't know. My daughter's really trying to figure herself out right now. COVID really messed her up. She was a junior and senior during COVID, missed both years pretty much. And she's just really trying to find herself. And she said overseas is just not it. So,
And do you feel guilty? Does she miss you? Like, how does that work?
I don't, sometimes I feel a little guilty. However, I know she doesn't want to travel, and she was at a point where she didn't really want to live with her mom. So it's like, even if I was there, she didn't want to live with me. So like, I do make arrangements. Like she lives with my friend, so she has that, or her grandmother, or however she wants to do that. And I always say, well, if you want to come, you can come travel. And like, I'm leaving the DR. At the end of the month. So, I'll be back there with her and I'll stay for a few months. And, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? But she's just kind of laid back doing her own thing. We talk a lot. We're always talking, but she doesn't.
But she is 18. You said 18, 19. I mean,
Yeah.
I left home when I was 16. So
Right.
she's
Yeah, so when I left after she left. So because I was like, I was gonna stay for a little while, but she started doing her own thing. She was like, she didn't want to live at home. You don't want to follow rules and that type of thing. I was like, well, if you gone, I'm gone too.
Oh, so okay, so I see what you're saying. So she pretty much left home. She
Yeah,
was ready to be on her own. Now that she's on her own though, not wanting to follow rules, is she seeing how hard life is, or is she like she don't
yeah.
care?
Life is kicking her ass right now.
Say it
It
again.
is. Yeah, it is.
Say it again.
Life is kicking her ass right now. She's learning. She's learning. So we're talking it through, and I'll be back this summer. But it's one of those things. You got to know your kids. My child is one of those people. She is not gonna. You could talk to your blue in the face. She's not hearing anything that you're saying.
She has to she doesn't live it, she doesn't live vicariously through people. She got to experience it herself.
Yep. So I'll talk to her, my mom, everybody talk to her. She not trying to hear what we saying. She gonna do it and she gonna learn. And she told me that. She said, Mom, I'm gonna make mistakes. She said, I promise you I am. And I'm going to have to learn from my mistakes myself. And I was like, well, damn.
Now, does she have a relationship with her dad? Like, does her dad, do they see each
She does.
other?
It's not as close as we are, but her dad's in Atlanta too. And one thing that I noticed is that since I've been gone, that relationship has gotten a little bit stronger too. So that's a good thing.
Now, how do you reckon with your son the absence of his father?
He
How do
doesn't have,
you?
because it's been since he was like 1.5. Like the only time, and I have a friend that I didn't dated, and now we're back friends, and he's like his stepfather. So like he'll call him, like he's been in his life for maybe since he was like 5. So he'll call him and FaceTime him and stuff like that. But the only time he asked about his father, he actually asked my friend, it's like his stepdad. He was looking through the album because I'm like, well, let me keep the albums and stuff on. He was looking through a wedding album and he saw him and he looked at him and he was like, who is that? And he looked at him, he looked back at him. He was like, I don't know. And he looked at him. He was like, I don't know either. And that was the extent of the conversation.
Because a
So
lot of people will be like, oh, you need a father in the household. Oh, you need a dad. Oh, you need this. Oh, you need that. That's not always true.
I feel like you need a father figure. You need a male figure. He has his grandfather. He has like I said, he has his stepfather. Even when we were in the States, he was involved in a lot of activities before COVID. So I mean, he gets a lot of love. And I don't know.
And that's
It's
also because you, as an amazing mom, you created that community of male leadership that can really minister to your son.
well, thank you. I never looked at it that way.
Well, that's what it sounds like you're doing.
Yes, I am. But yeah, because it's important. Like he needs those role models. But yeah, he can call them whenever. He told me one day, he said, he called me at 6 in the morning. I was like, and you answered? Call at 6 in the morning. They talk about what's going on. He may play his tablet while he's on the phone with them. His grandfather, they work on motorcycles, and because his grandfather collects cars and works on cars, so they do all of that. So he still gets that. Actually, my son does better with adults than he does children anyway. So he's
Yeah,
cool.
he seems like an old soul. So here's my question for you. How do you make money? How do you support yourself? I know you were saying when we had our conversations, which I'm not sure if you said it already, but how do you support yourself? How do you make money? How do you do it virtually, online?
So first, I'm a saver. So before I left, I had already saved. Like I'm just that person. My mom said, "You don't save for a rainy day. You save for a monsoon." I'm just like, I've always been a saver, so I made sure I had money saved up in my account. Um, and the other thing is, you remember when they were giving all those stipend checks? Well, I used mine to invest. I didn't go shopping with my stipend. I
You
took
mean
my money
during the 19? Is that what you're saying?
pandemic. Yeah. When they were sitting in the checks, I used my checks and I invested. I have a couple of investments in Alabama. I have one in Atlanta where I invested money in kind of like a crowdfunding syndication in real estate. So that brings dividends. I also have a house that I rent out that brings money. I sold my house and I watched the market when I sold my house. So I sold once everybody else had sold their house, and then I increased my price. So I sold my house, and then I am actually going back to the States to invest that as well. So I'll probably buy a multifamily and do another investment, the crowdfunding syndication. So that's two of the ways I do my money. um, I'm also a nurse practitioner, so I'll see patients. I may work maybe 2, 3 days a week. I don't do a whole lot, not a full day, but I see patients through telehealth. So I make a little bit of money there. And then I do coaching. So I coach clients, like I mentioned. And then I also have journals that I just wrote. Those aren't making any money yet, but they're amazing. Like they really should.
Yeah, but I love your journals. I know we took that class together on creating an online digital product. I love your journal. Your journal is good. But
So
I think
I,
it's just all about doing the work and just putting it out there. And then when you start to really increase an audience, it's already there. The foundation's already laid, and
right,
people will then be able to go and find. Because when people want to consume your content and they find you, they will go back to all your stuff. They'll find you and they'll start to consume. So I think the fact that you've put it out there and you've started the process is all the universe needs. It will come into alignment now or in the future.
right. Because I actually did a second one. So I did a journal um, for moms making it happen. And then I did a second one, a follow up for single women making it happen. And you know what's funny about the single woman is I did that going through a breakup. So it's a journal with prompts and things like that. And going through the breakup, I wrote different things like to enlighten myself and uplift myself and all. Yeah. So that's
Now, what
what.
breakup are you talking about? What breakup? What breakup is this? What break? What do you mean breakup? What breakup was this? Huh? Breakup? When?
One
Is
of
this
those
recent?
we together, not together, breakup type of thing. This was one where I met him before I left the States and I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. So and we dated for about a year, but it was still like I'm leaving. Like I don't want you to feel like you're gonna change my mind. I'm still leaving. And people tend to feel like they can change your mind. No, I'm doing me. This is my time.
That's
So
what
when I
Frankie was saying. Frankie was saying on her video regarding to love that it's so hard meeting men when I mean she can meet men who van life while she's van lifing, but they all want her to stop van lifing. They're all like, "Why are you van lifing, huh?"
Yeah. And it was like, oh no, I'm not staying. Like I had my daughter at 18. I've been a mom. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Now I'm doing me. Like this is what I'm going to do. So if you can't join along, I'm still gone. So we just kind of started pulling away. So it was one of those things where, just kind of that encouragement. And I'm a writer anyway. That's always been my thing. I've always written, so I used that, and that's how I wrote that particular journal. But yeah, people want feel like you're going to change, and it's like, no, I'm actually going to be exactly who I say I am. Like Maya Angelou says, when somebody shows you who you are, believe them the first time. So I don't know.
So let's talk about love. You know, I love to talk about love. How are you in love? Have you found love? You're in the DR, you're with your son. Because why I like talking to you and why I wanted to interview you is because a lot of people try to tell, especially black women, and I'm just gonna put out all the things they say. Oh, you're overweight, no man is gonna love you. Oh, you dark skinned, no man is gonna love you. Oh, you got a baby, no man is gonna love you. Right, right? Oh, you whatever. All the reasons to why we black women are unlovable, right? What do you say to that? So I have three questions to you, and you can just take it away. What do you say to that? What do you say to black women, single women with children, who believe in this narrative? What do you say to that? And then tell a little bit more about your experiences in finding love. Once you left that old relationship, you went away. Have you found love? What have your experiences been like?
Um, so I say that's BS. I mean, in a nutshell, like I said, I had my daughter when I was 18. I was married for like 9 or 10 years. I actually met my ex-husband when I was in college. So I was married for 9 or 10 years.
So your ex-husband is also the father of your daughter.
Not of my daughter. That's the thing. He's not. She was about 2 or 3 when I met him. But that's why I say it's BS. Having a child does not change who you are as a person. Yes, your child becomes part of that relationship, but that relationship first starts with the two of you all. And I'm from Atlanta. I'm from the place where they say you can't find a good man, da 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 this, da 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 that.
All the men are gay.
I've never had a problem finding a good man. I never. All of the men that I have actually been in relationships with, they have been good men. They have taken care of me. They have spoiled me. They have taken care of my kids. They will take on that role if that's the role that I want them to take on. It's always, honestly, all of my relationships I've left. Like, to me, I've always felt like there's
So where do
something.
you think that narrative comes from then? And because I feel like on YouTube that manosphere, I mean, I don't know, I don't believe in it, but a lot of people believe in it. Like, where did this narrative come from? Because all my girlfriends who have husbands had children.
I really feel like it comes down to you and your self-esteem and your self-worth and how you feel about yourself. I talk to my friends and I'm like, it's how you present yourself and what you accept. When I put myself out there, there are things that I won't accept. There are things that are a definite. And if I let you
Like,
know,
what are two deal breakers of yours that you don't accept? Like, what are two or one deal breaker?
like I for me, if we look at love languages, I like gifts, I like acts of service. So those things you have to do. I like to be spoiled, I like to be taken care of. We going out, you need a passport. Those are things. So if you don't have a passport when you meet me, very quickly you will be getting one because we getting on somebody's plane doing something. That was before I was traveling like this. The thing is, I made those things known up front. So you knew that if you could not meet those expectations, then we weren't going to end up in a relationship. The same way you have expectations, so do I. It's when we drop them, because everybody's not going to meet everything, right? But when we drop everything, when we drop, I want him to do this, I want him to do that. Like, now another thing is, every man is not going to make a huge amount of money. I tell you that one guy for years, he didn't make a huge amount of money, but he didn't have any kids. So you wouldn't have thought that he didn't make a huge amount of money. We were traveling the world. We were doing all kinds of stuff. He was
Because
just
he knew how to handle his money and he knew how to use it
exactly.
properly.
Exactly. So he knew how to handle his money, and he knew, he did very well with it. So even though I may have made more, you would have never known. Like, there was no way you would have known. I never had to pay for anything. I would sometimes, but I never had to. So it's just setting those expectations up front. And I think the other thing is, I don't ever need or I don't want to say desire, but you know how some people like, I really want a man. I really want to
Like
be
they're
married.
desperate. They're not desperate for a man.
I'm
Right.
not that person.
Because
I've
I
been
think I think I do. Now I've been independent from a very young age, right?
Yeah,
But as I'm moving through the world, I do notice and understand the power of a man.
right. That part. Yes. Yes.
And when a man is with me, and a great man, the protection, the provision, all that comes with it, I understand what that means and how that can be really great for me. But I also understand the opposite too.
You don't want just any man. It's got to be the right man. But that's the thing, like, knowing that those things are very positive. I need a protector. I need somebody that takes care of us. I need to know that, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not the one that's got to get up if there's a loud noise. Like, those are the things that are important. But you have to know that, and you can't just accept any and everybody. You're gonna go through a lot of frogs before you get to the good ones, but you gotta wait out for those good ones before you actually get in that relationship, before you actually move to that next level. I remember Steve Harvey came out with his book. I read the book, I said, ain't nothing in here all that interesting. It's just common sense. What the hell? I could have wrote this.
When I said that, my friend said you a hater. I said I'm not a hater. And look at his daughter. She just dunked Michael B. Jordan. Like, this is basic, yo. I grew up in the hood, yo, in Brooklyn. My ghetto street brothers taught me the game, yo. This is
Right,
common sense.
right,
Don't give no man no money. Don't buy no man no gifts. Don't be
right.
having sex with him if you want something more. Like, just common sense.
Common sense stuff. It's like, what, we don't have common sense. And I think, for me, I got in my marriage so young. I met my ex-husband when I was 20. So by the time I divorced, I was like 29, and I was like, I need to find me. So I took like a year. My friends thought it was crazy. He was like, "You're not gonna date for a year?" No, I'm not. I took a year to find me, focus on me, figure out what I like. And when I dated, girl, I dated everything. I dated white, I dated black, I dated tall, I dated short, fat, skinny, because I didn't know what the hell I liked. I didn't know what I liked. But in doing that, I figured out exactly what I like. I figured out exactly what I don't like. I dated all different types of personalities, to figure out what I liked, what I wanted, and what I was looking for. So that helped me a lot because now, when you come, no, I'm good. No, thank you. Mm-mm.
Now tell me, so are you dating someone now you're in the DR? Yes. So are you dating someone now? Because here's my question. Everyone talks about the DR and the history behind it and the mentality and how they treat Haitian people because they're separated with just the border and the whole, colonism behind it, colonial
Colonialism.
colonization. Why did you decide to move to the DR? Because, you hear so much about it. And does that affect your love life? Because, you're a Black woman. And if it doesn't affect your love life, then tell me a little bit about that.
So I never actually decided to move to the DR.
Makes sense.
I Yeah. So I was in Colombia and I was like, I'm not really feeling Medellin. So, I wanted to go to Spain. And then that's when I started hearing about Portugal. And, but it was still cold there. And a couple of my friends were like, well, why don't you stop in the DR? They say it's really cool. I like it when I go there. One of my male friends, he was like, one of his friends, she goes out to Spain quite often. The flights aren't expensive from there. So my goal was to come to the DR. I never even wanted to come here. I was going to come, and from there, we were going to stay a month or two, see the sights or whatever, and then leave and go over to Spain or Portugal. Well, I have my video of don't get got while dating in DR, and I got.
And when you say you got, what you mean you got? What that mean you got?
In a month, I met this guy. He is from
Okay, stop right
Nigeria.
there. Where did you meet him? Where were you? What time of day? What was the weather?
So, okay, it's so interesting because I actually met him on Facebook. I had posted that
Wait, Facebook how? Facebook dating
no,
or
no, no, no. I had posted in one of the DR expat groups that I was trying to find out about transportation to our hotel because I have my son's wheelchair. So I always need to make sure that our transportation is larger. Well, he had responded and he actually had messaged me and he was like, you could do a taxi. I know a few people, let me get you the information. And I was like, okay, whatever, not thinking much about it. And then he was like, he came back and he was like, okay, I talked to one of the doctors I know and he uses this taxi. So here's the information. I've already contacted them for you. So you could do da da da. And I'm like, is this like this guy psycho? Like, is he trying to kidnap me? Like what is going on? Why is he doing this? So, he sends me the information. And by the time he sent it to me, though, I was already en route to where I was going. But he had arranged it. He sent me the screenshots of the text messages. And I was like, huh, oh, okay. So after that, he was like, I just wanted to make
but
sure.
he was already showing you acts of service.
Right. Now, mind you, when I posted, I think I just said I'm looking for a ride for me and my family. Like, I didn't really say at the time that it was just me and my son. So, from there, he kind of started messaging me, and I was going to a different part of Dominican Republic, so I didn't think anything of it. And then when I didn't like that part of Dominican Republic, it's pretty popular, Puerto Plata. I was like, well, let me go somewhere else. So my friend was like, well, you should go to this area. Well, that area just happens to be the place that he lived at. So, rewind. We had met when I first came into Santo Domingo, and then fast forward a month later, I was coming to this area, and I was like, "Should I tell him I'm coming?" Because we weren't talking as much anymore. So, when I got there, I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll tell him. He could show me the sights." And met up with him, and it was like one thing led to another. He's like younger than me, muscular, nice looking, and we started dating and
Okay, wait. You're skipping a lot of things. Hold on. Let me turn this fan off. Hold on. You're skipping a lot of things. You gotta slow down. You gotta slow down. You gotta slow down. You gotta slow down. You gotta slow. I'm asking you the questions all the girls are going to know. Okay. So you were right. So you were first in one place in the DR. You didn't like it, so you went to another place, and that's where he was living. And then you guys met up, and things went into one. Things moved from there. How much younger is he than you?
7 years.
7 years.
Mhm.
And he didn't
And
care about that. He didn't care about your age.
no, because I cared. I kept caring, and he kept not caring. And what's so funny is, you know, you think Nigerian, you're like, oh, is he trying to do this for the passport, the money, this, that, and the other?
Because that was my next question. I'm like, how you know he not into you for your Americanness?
Right, right. And that was the thing because he's still working on his whole citizenship or something like that. But it was so interesting. I actually overheard a conversation that he was talking to somebody about doing a citizenship, and they were like, "Well, don't you have a girl? Isn't she American? And so she can help you." And he was like, "No, I'm not trying to get my citizenship through marriage or anything like that." He was like, when I'm ready to get married, it's gonna be for love. It's not going to be for passport or citizenship." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting," because most people would be, trying to jump on that bandwagon. So, that was actually a conversation that I overheard, and he didn't say, I don't even know that he knew that I actually had heard that conversation. But
Now,
he,
now, how now? When was it that you met him? So you guys have been dating for how long then?
so I came to the DR New Year's Eve. And it was funny, even on New Year's Eve, he sent me pictures of fireworks because I was like, I can't see fireworks from my from my place. So we started dating the beginning of February. And honestly, that's how I ended up staying in the DR. That we started dating, and a little bit while after I got hurt, I got had a shoulder injury.
Right.
So I had to deal with the hospitals and all of that kind of stuff. But he helped me the entire time. Like he actually stayed with me because I couldn't do anything. They thought I was gonna need surgery. So he came, he stayed with me, he took care of my son, he took care of me, he got me to doctors, he made sure I got to therapy, he would go get my medicine, get me my sleep, everything, everything. Like I
So
honestly,
that means
I
that he met your son then. What's your son's name again?
Cam.
Cam, Cam.
Uh-huh.
So that means he met your son.
Because at that point I was hurt. Like I couldn't do anything. Like I had a nanny that was coming in to help me. But I'm gonna tell you, help in the DR, these people are not reliable. And not having anybody reliable when I literally I could not use my shoulder. Even now it's weak, but I can use it. I couldn't do anything. I was drugged. Like and he helped me with everything. He would
And
girl
is your son independent where he can do things on his own, or he needs you to be physically intact?
he needs some assistance, and he's the one, actually my boyfriend's the one that helped my son become a bit more independent, and doing stuff and saying, okay, you're going to be a man, you're almost 11, you can't have mom doing this. And that sternness, I was like, oh, you're a little too stern. That Nigerian comes out, but
He's Nigerian
he's Nigerian, he's not Dominican,
in the DR.
he's Nigerian.
You're not scared of Nigerians?
And that was the thing. That was the other thing. I'm like, oh, you're not.
No, no.
That's why I
Let me
said,
just correct that really quickly because I'm not saying that because I love being Nigerian. My ex was a Nigerian, honey. I date only African men. I
it's
date,
a
you gotta
whole.
be black. I only date African men, Jamaican men, Caribbean men. I mean, of course, I date white men too, but I will date the blacker you are, the sweeter the juice, honey. And my friends be like, you not scared of Nigerians? You not scared of Jamaicans? I'm like, no.
Girl, no. Mm-mm. Like, and the thing was, him being Nigerian, I was a little hesitant. I'm not gonna say that I wasn't. You know, excuse me, because they just have that reputation. And I had dated one Nigerian in my life, and he was crazy as hell. Like
On a
He was
Nigerian identity, he drove me crazy.
yeah, he like military Nigerian, American military, and they military is off the chain. And then he was like American military. That was a bit much. That only lasted like 2-3 months. So that was my only experience. I really didn't know what to expect. But he's so cool, calm, and collected. Like I'd be like, I can't believe they ripped me off again. I can't stand these. And he like,
But who was he dating beforehand? How was he Nigerian, muscular, young, gorgeous? He didn't have no girl he was dating.
he wasn't dating. He had gotten to the DR maybe 7 to 9 months before, and he came to the DR to get to the States. So that's kind of been his goal. So that's what he was basically focused on. And he was like, he wasn't dating. So when we talked, I'm thinking I'm gonna have me a Stella moment. That's what I'm thinking like that. This is gonna be a whole thing. And we had a conversation, and he just felt like I was just so inspirational, whatever, whatever. And he was like, "You're amazing," and I was like, "Wait, what?" And he
Yeah,
was
I'm
like,
sure he thought you were amazing. I mean, he would be dumb not to.
I've never met anyone like you. And that's kind of how it went into that, other than the just, I'm gonna have me a Stella moment to actually being in a relationship. So I have been
Because
out
you
here.
heard what happened in the end with Terry McMillan. You know what happened with Terry McMillan and her man when she wrote that movie, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, and she moved him to the
What happened with
States,
it? They did
and he
end up
stole from her. Remember they were on the Oprah Winfrey show when he stole from her,
really.
and he
I
turned out to be exactly what everybody said he was, a user, and he was turned out to be gay. Remember? Or they were saying he was gay, and he was like, "No, I'm not." And Oprah was like, "Are you sure you're not gay?"
I never saw that episode. I'm gonna have to look that up. The story ended when the story ended for me. But yeah, so it's been pretty amazing. But again, I hate the Dominican Republic. I'm just gonna be very honest. I cannot stand the Dominican Republic. So there lies the first problem.
Oh, so you don't like it there?
No, 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 no. Mm-mm.
Okay, tell me two reasons why you don't like it there.
Colorism.
This is what I
That-
said.
That's the biggest reason. And the way that they treat you, as far as just ripping you off, it's not like you go to Mexico or you go to Bahamas. I think it's more like, how people talk about Egypt and the way they rip you off in Egypt, like the way they hound you and harass you, and that type. It's really, really bad.
What you mean they hound you and harass you and rip you off? Like, how does that work?
They are okay. So, for example, there's this like dolphin discovery thing, and let's say it costs $200, $100 for pictures. They will upcharge you so much. They charge one man $800.
But is that simply because you're an immigrant or you're an expat or you're non-DR, like you're not
Yeah,
from there?
yeah.
But isn't that everywhere though? That's in Morocco. That's in Dakar, Senegal. Because I get ripped off just today. I got ripped off in
But
Portugal.
to me, it's a whole different level of where I've ever been in the world, and it's really the fact that even when you're a loyal customer, even like I would rent a car every weekend from the same place, it wouldn't stop them from trying to rip me off every time. It was one girl, she was getting her daughter's hair done every 2 weeks from someone, and she was like, well, let me try getting my hair done, and she charged her triple. It was these are the type of things that I'm like, this is not normal. Like most places they rip you off, but once you see me coming all the time and you still try to rip me, like it's a mentality. And I can't blame them, because the average salary here is like $200-300 a month, right? So it's nothing. That's the salary here. So in the sense, I can't blame them, but I just am not comfortable. I just can't. I need to be able to have a place where I'm like, oh, we go to this bodega every so often, and they know us, and I know they're not gonna treat us that way and rip us off. So that and the colorism, I
Now
just
let's talk about the colorism. Tell me about the colorism if you've had any experiences with colorism. Because in the States, you wouldn't be considered, of course, you're a Black woman, but
right.
we wouldn't be considered dark skinned, or would we? We would be kind of like you and I would be not sure whether we pass,
Right,
which part of the paper bag test.
right,
So
right.
we wouldn't be light skinned, but we wouldn't be dark skinned either. But I'm sure in the DR, we dark skinned, we black.
So in the TR, I personally haven't experienced it, but I've definitely seen it. When I walk down the street, the first question is Haitian, American. Like they want to know, like before they do anything, before they respond to me, they want to know, what am I? What am I? From the second they see me, and I don't like that. It's one thing
Me
for you to
neither.
say, "Am I American?" Because you just want to know if I got American money, right? But are you Haitian? Are you American? And the other thing is they treat Haitians the worst. You see them on the bus going to work, and they put a bunch of them on there, and then they take that truck and they drive them to work. They put them in the very worst situations. They won't let them get residency here, even though they share the same island. They won't let them get residency. So,
So
they
wait, I thought what only separated the DR and Haiti was water. They're on the same island?
they're on the same island. It's not water. You can go over there. You can drive over there. It's the same island. They just split it down the middle.
I thought they were separate all the time. I thought it was bad. How could they be separated by water? And it's even worse. They're on the same island?
They're on the same island. So
You're
they
ignorant,
have
man.
to
You're so ignorant.
smuggle themselves over to the DR. And you can see the treatment. So once they know that I'm American, and once I open my mouth, they know that I'm American, so I get American treatment. But they treat Haitians even worse than they treat Americans. And I didn't leave the states where they treat black people like dogs to come to a country where they treat people, because they come from literally the wrong side of the island, like dogs. So like a lot of the people that I use, like I like to do my hair, I use Haitians. And they're like, "Oh, I'm Haitian. Oh, great. Okay, come on, girl. Let's, do something with this hair today." You know, because they don't pay them, and they live in certain parts of the city. And I just, the treatment, it's one of those things where I personally have not experienced the treatment myself, but I know that if they found out, if they knew I was Haitian, I'm not Haitian, but I would get a totally different treatment